Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to Couch Conversations where health is wealth. So, of course, we took last Monday off, and I thank you guys for chiming in and making sure that we were okay. But I ran a rerun. Maybe it wasn't the rerun that you wanted to see, but we made sure that you were available to watch us. Once again, it's Couch Conversations with the Doctors where health is wealth. We're going to remind you guys to share, invite off to come and be along for Couch Conversations with the Doctors. As always, we're going to have an open conversation tonight, and we will have some great guests coming up during this month. But want to let you know about the month of June. What is the month of June? So the month of June is National Safety Month. It is Pride Month. It is World Infertility Awareness Month. It's Hunger Awareness Month. It's Child and Vision Research and Cataract Awareness Month. It is Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month. It's PTSD Awareness Month. It is Pharmacists Declare War Against Alcoholism Month. It is Migraine and Headache Awareness Month. It is Fruit and Vegetable Month. So if Dr. Mason was here, he would probably start clapping and jumping up and down right now. It is also Scoliosis Awareness Month, which is something I got a question about. What exactly is scoliosis? It is Family Health Fitness Day on June 12th. And the greatest of all is today, June 6th, is what we call National Cancer Survivor Day. So, to everyone who has ever had a diagnosis of cancer and you are now in remission and you have beat that thing and you are here, congratulations. And today we celebrate you on June 6th, National Cancer Survivor Day. As always, we're going to go around the table and we're going to introduce the great people that are here with us today. Starting off with our very own man who says that I threaten him to be here every Monday, but he is always here at all times when he is not traveling. That's our very own Dr. James Miller. Dr. Miller.
Good evening, everybody. I want to thank Nikki and the Congressman for providing this platform, and I'm happy to join in. And this is about health. This is about making the community healthier. And so we're here to answer questions, to give information, and to share our knowledge and experiences. Hopefully, that it'll be able to help somebody else become healthier.
Absolutely. To my colleague who leaves us periodically and he goes to where all the sun and fun is, but then he tends to feel sorry for us and he finds his way back. That's our very own Douglas Graham. Dr. Graham.
Thank you, Nikki. I don't think you can get enough of that natural vitamin D. I'm just following Dr. Hampton's recipe. So, I'm a retired physician. I worked in the Congress's office for a couple of years on healthcare issues. It's a real honor and a privilege to be here. I'm going to try and answer your questions if I can.
To the man who has the beautiful art always in his background, and he is the man with the plan. That's our very own Joseph Harrington.
Thank you, Nikki. Again, I'm Joe Harrington. I spent most of my career working in public health or healthcare, worked at 3 different hospitals. Retired in 2017 from the Illinois Department of Public Health, where I was administrative law judge and regional health officer for Cook County. Happy to be here and happy to provide whatever insights I can.
Thank you so much, Joe. That is outstanding. To the weight loss guru, that family medicine doctor who's making sure that you're going to lose a little weight, that's our very own Dr. Tony Hampton.
I am always happy to be here. I missed our last meeting. Had a great time celebrating my kids' graduation from college and grad school. But you get around a lot of people, and when you get around a lot of people, things go south. So happy to be with you guys. I'm going to keep my tea going and my water, and we're going to get through this meeting. And I'm really just happy to be part of this platform, work on the south side of Chicago, family practice, obesity, and everything else that's in the primary care sphere. So thanks a lot for having us here tonight, Nikki.
No worries. Thank you for being here. And I think that may have something to do with that wash you had, huh? Yeah, I see.
Yeah,
I
that's
see.
it.
I want to say hey to the Facebook user that's here. Good evening. I want to say good evening to Lorenzo Burton that's here with us, who says good evening to everyone. To Gwen Butler, who is here. She says good evening all. To May Ross, who is here with us, saying good evening to the doctor. To that guy who's really a lightweight chef in his own right, at his own house, in his own backyard. But that faithful dog lover, he's an outstanding physician. That's our very own Dr. Pete Thomas.
Hey, good evening, Nikki. I want to thank my esteemed panelists for allowing me to be a part of this, and the Congressman for creating this platform, Congressman Danny Davis of the 7th Congressional District. I'm happy to be here, just ready to share with the community. We missed last week, but hopefully we can make up for it this week and share with the community some good health information. And by the way, he's wearing that hat because that's where all his money went for the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
You know how you go, you know how
Amen.
people go on a trip, you know how people go on the trip and they say, bring me something back, and they come back with their t-shirt and say they spent all this money and all they brought me was a t-shirt. You spent all that money and all you got was a hat.
It's that's all I can afford to get. You know, college is mind-boggling, and I do appreciate some of the efforts that are being made to cancel student debt. I think that is the right thing to do. Hopefully we can do more of that because the dream of achieving financial security with an education is not as easy as it seems. So we encourage everybody to get an education, but a lot of people get the education and they struggle and then they have debt. So we want to create an environment where everybody can get this education without being on the verge of bankruptcy. So, but having been blessed with an education and resources, we can handle it, but we want everybody to have those opportunities. So, yeah. So shout out to WashU. Yeah.
Outstanding with the WashU hat. Outstanding. So we have a couple other people who are here with us just as well, and they're making their way to their seats, and there's someone else who is making their way to their computer to be here. I want to say hey to Cheryl Foster. She says hello to everyone. I see Virginia Knight has stopped in. Virginia Knight says, good evening, everyone. She's been having a class lately on Monday. I guess she ditched them tonight to be with us. I ran into Virginia and she said she missed being here with us and we missed you. So thank you for finding your way back home, as I can say, because this is where you need to be on your Monday night. So I'm going to kill time and share with everyone what June month is again. So remember, June celebrates the following: National Safety Month, Pride Month, World Infertility Awareness, Hunger, Child and Vision Research, Cataract Awareness, Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness, PTSD Awareness Month. Pharmacists declare War on Alcoholism Month. That's a really interesting one. Pharmacists declaring war on Alcoholism Awareness Month. Migraine Headache Awareness. Once again, if Dr. Mason was here, he would talk about the fact that it is Fruit and Vegetable Month. On June 12th, it is Family and Health Fitness Day. That's June 12th. And once again, the greatest of all, today, June 6th. June 6th is National Cancer Survivor Day. So once again, we want to say hats off to all of those who have had one of those diagnoses and you have now beat it and you are here as a survivor to share your testimony and to tell someone else that speed diagnosis does not mean the end. So I want to thank you all for that. And I think I am frozen. I think I'm frozen.
Yeah, you're frozen, but while you're frozen, I can hear you. We can hear you just fine.
Okay, so if you can hear me, I'm just going to keep on going. We're just going to start that conversation while we're waiting on the others to grab and come on in with us. You know, what is scoliosis? I see that it's Scoliosis Awareness Month, but what exactly is scoliosis?
So I'll take that one, Nikki. Scoliosis is a curve in your spine. Now, when you're standing, you're straight up and down. And these spines actually have curves in them. They're either like C-shaped or S-shaped. Some of this is genetic, some of it is environmental. Many times nothing is done, but if it becomes so severe, it begins to affect your walking and your breathing, that's the time that they'll do something about it.
How do you treat something like that?
I'm thinking mostly surgical correction when it becomes that severe. It's to make sure that you have good balance when you're walking, sharing it equally between your hips and your knees, but also so that you can breathe normally too.
Oh, wow.
It's another reason. It's another reason why, having a body that we take care of is so important, because some of us have things like scoliosis And some of us just need to go to work. And just imagine if you're a male person, right, or work at UPS, and your job is to, I think about my father-in-law who's with me today, and he worked for Yellow Freight, so he had to help, get stuff off the truck as he made these long deliveries. Imagine doing that type of work and having a body that's not prepared to do the work, right? So when you take scoliosis, you're already working at a deficit. Maybe that curvature is causing problems down the road. Maybe it's affecting your hips, you're uneven, right? Because things are curved. So your shoulders, your hip, your waist can be off. So it's so important, everybody that's listening, how do I maintain my body so that I can do the work? I have to pay my bills, I have to support my family. How do I maintain my body? So what you do is you think about a total body kind of process. So for me, it's stretching, it's walking, it's using bands to exercise, whatever it is that you do, you want to have an approach where you're constantly trying to take care of your body. So maybe the scoliosis won't bother you as much because the surrounding muscles that support your back, your frame, are doing a good job to support it. So it's really important that we treat our bodies like we treat that new car. You just bought a new car, and if somebody put cheap gas in that car, you'd have a fit, right? Well, you can't leave that new car in the garage, and you have to move it. You have to get tune-ups. And so it's really important, no matter what you're faced with, scoliosis as an example, that we do a good job of maintaining our body. And if we do that, we probably won't end up to have surgery, won't end up having to have all the things that can occur downstream. So I just really think that's important. And just because you're retired and you have time to watch the playoffs with the beer in your hand doesn't mean that you shouldn't make time for something very basic. The good news is you only have to do it 2 or 3 times. They recommend you got to do it 5 days, etc. In my personal opinion, if you move your body 2 or 3 times a week, that may be sufficient, particularly as we age, because we need recovery. And without recovery, you may end up more injured than healthier. So just keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, Nikki, I have a question for my colleagues. And when I was putting my car in the garage today, I got my check engine oil light went on. And so sometimes there's some signs that things are beginning to happen. And I would ask my esteemed colleagues, are there some things that people should look for that may be an indication that there's a problem before there's a genuine problem, and that might prompt them to go see a doctor?
Well, I can say for a primary care physician, we see a lot of skeletal muscle complaints. And in general, if I were to lump them into big categories, like strains and sprains happen the most. And so if you have a consistent strain or a consistent area of the body that's hurting, and back pain, believe it or not, is very prevalent in the primary care environment. So we see a lot of that. And if you can't identify a particular particular event where, I was picking up something, or I was bending over underneath the car, then it's important that you put together the history of, okay, you've had some muscle pain back in the past, and that muscle pain now might require that you go and get an x-ray, and that x-ray will tell us, oh, well, take a look at your spine. Your spine is abnormally curved, so that might be the explanation. I can tell you, if you got 10 people that has back pain, 8 of them got a slip disc. So it's not always that whatever you see on the x-ray is the explanation for your pain. So that would be the typical environment that we might find someone that has scoliosis.
Yeah. One of the other things also that the patient should be aware of is that when activities that are normal activities cause you to have discomfort, or during or after the activity, and that's something that you should be aware that maybe something is not right and that it needs to be evaluated. So just doing normal activities, and either you wake up the next morning and you're feeling pain, uh, that's an indication that either there's some malalignment or malfunctioning of some particular part of your musculoskeletal system.
So I have two quick questions here that were sent in. Um, they're both anonymous, which is amazing. One question says, would a heavy purse cause you to have back pain or hip pain? And they also say, part two of their question is, should you see a chiropractor?
I'll chime in. When the two tests I always tell patients they normally don't hear from their doctor is fasting insulin level, and a heart scan with an Advocate Aurora coronary artery calcium score test, which is a heart scan. It's a $49 test, so it'll predict a heart attack 5 to 10 years in advance. So when it comes to something you don't have any symptoms, and then the insulin level is important because it'll predict diabetes. But I bring up insulin because hyperinsulinemia is one of the leading causes of all chronic diseases. So if you think about metabolic syndrome, which includes blood pressure, blood sugar, waist circumference or big girth, and the high triglycerides and HDL, those 5 things, right? That's metabolic syndrome. So the most important thing of those 5 things, shockingly, is your abdominal girth. So not only is your abdominal girth a reflection of a back that's going to struggle, because if you make a circle, right? If the back part of the circle is your back and it's trying to support the front part, which has no muscle, it's just a big belly, then your back's going to struggle. So you want to have a circle that's supporting the entire circle. And I think that's what's important. That's why it's important that we don't have a big belly, not so our scoliosis won't be bad, but because the things that kill the most people are related to metabolic syndrome, heart attack, stroke, diabetes, dementia, et cetera. So I think if you're on this live stream and you're thinking maybe my abdominal girth is too much sticking out, and you shouldn't be surprised that maybe my back's gonna bother me sometimes. You shouldn't be surprised that when you have your cholesterol check, it's off. You shouldn't be surprised that your blood pressure tends to run borderline or high. You shouldn't be surprised you're borderline diabetic or diabetic. You shouldn't be surprised that your mental cognition is not that great, because you're at risk for type 3 diabetes, which is dementia. All of this stuff is because you have a big gut. The irony, and the last thing I'll say, is that if a man in front of me as a patient has a large belly, but he's not that big otherwise, right? And then you have a large lady who's kind of shaped more like a let's just say a pear, right? You would think that this, morbidly obese, I hate those terms, but let's just use that term for educational purposes. You would think she'd be at the highest risk of a heart attack, but guess what? It's the guy with the big belly who's at the highest risk. So your belly is a very clear indication of your risk for a lot of these chronic medical conditions, while also not supporting your back when you have back conditions. So keep that in mind. So I would work on that part, but also have your doctor do an insulin level for diabetes prediction and a heart scan for heart attack prediction.
Nikki, you're muted.
She had some technical problems earlier, so I see Dr. Maya has made it here, and she's here. So when she gets that opportunity, I want her to introduce herself. And then also, Dr. Mason has made it here. And I know that he knows that June is Fruits and Vegetables Awareness Month. So I want to make sure that we share that with him just as well. So Dr. Maya, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello.
Dr. 100, that is.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me. I'm seeing like 3 of myself now on the screen. I hope I'm only one person on this screen. I'm out here. The reception wasn't that good, but thank you for having me. Excited to learn. I've learned something I'm going to ask Dr. Hampton about later on already, just in these 5 seconds I've been here. So excited to be here, excited to be a part of the community. And thank you for having me, Nikki and Congressman.
Sure. Dr. Mason.
Well, again, I hope I'm not muted, but I just want to say thank you for this opportunity, as we have always to, and I'm grateful for it, Nikki, the platform that you and the congressman have put together to get some information out to the people. So that's what I want to make sure that I do, along with my other esteemed colleagues here. I just want to take up a little bit about what just was talked about. When I was in practice, and my practice for the men really focused around 2 areas, and that was prostate cancer, and the other was erectile dysfunction, probably more erectile dysfunction than prostate cancer. And I could tell, and I came up with people say, well, Doc, how do you know if your stomach is, they were talking about, they don't know about 40 inches or anything like that. So I said, well, I'm gonna give you a simple way to figure out if your stomach is too big. I said, it's real simple. You take all your clothes off, you stand straight up and look straight down. If you can't see all of your genitalia, you can't see your penis in its full length, you're too big. It's just that simple.
That's called keeping it real.
Yeah, or keeping it 100, maybe 99. But
Dr. 100 know about that.
No, but I'm being very, very, very serious. And a similar sort of situation exists for women as well. So we don't need any special things. You don't need to go out and get any measuring tapes or any of that kind of stuff. If you look and you can't see, that's it. And you are already a setup, because that fat that is blocking your view is the fat that's in your what's called the omentum. What's that? Well, for those folks, now I know ain't nobody on this panel ever done it, but I'm sure there's some people that listen that have, and that is clean chitlins. When you clean in chitlins, you're pulling that fat away from the chitlins that's also around your chitlins inside you, not the hog chitlins. I'm talking about your chitlins. That additional fat that's around your intestines, that fat, or that fat that's in what's called the omentum, which is like an apron over the top of the chitlins. If you ever cut the hog yourself, you would see that too. So those are bad fats. That's a bad fat collection of fat, and it's a setup for a lot of different problems.
Can the omentum ever go back to normal if you lose weight, Dr. Mason?
Well, first of all, the short answer is, if you get back to a normal weight, yes, it could. But the thing is that I think too much emphasis has been on a weight and a number. I really think I don't even do that. I tell, I give them that test, and when you can look and see straight down, then you're good. But obesity and diets, I don't particularly, in the thing I'm writing now, I don't believe in diets. I don't. I just think you're going to eat to live or eat to die. And it's just that simple. You're going to eat stuff that's going to help you be sustainable in your life and live a healthy life, or you're going to eat things that are going to set you up for diabetes, hypertension, all of these other things that we have. And it's pretty much that simple. And dieting, even though you lose weight, doesn't always mean that you've gotten rid of all of the risk factors. And especially if you treat your diet like a project, where you get to a point where you lose weight, and then you go back to eating. When you get to where you want, you go back to eating what you were eating before. So that didn't help you. You make a decision every time you open your mouth and put food in it. You are voting whether you want to be healthy or not. With every fork and spoonful of food that you eat and the things you drink, every one of those votes on whether or not you want to be healthy or not.
Okay, so every spoonful is a vote. Vote wisely. Oh my. Oh, all right.
I know that's a whole, you can.
That was a forkful, right?
something. Yeah, I never thought of it like that. Yep.
Yeah, that was a forkful. It completely threw my thoughts of the omission looking like a lacy thin piece. It just threw it out the window. I'm never walking past the mirror again. I'm just joking. I'm joking, Dr. Mason. Now we have a question here from Bruce Holmes that says, please explain the cause and effects of fungus in the body.
What was that, Nikki? I didn't hear it. Please explain the what?
Oh, I said Bruce Holmes has a question here. He says, please explain the cause and effects of fungus in the body.
It's that's an interesting.
So I'm going to ask Bruce if he can give us just a little more about what fungus is he talking about, or I don't know. Doug, were you about to say something?
So it's not that common occurrence, and it usually occurs in the setting of when your immune system is working right. Because sometimes you get it when you're given broad spectrum antibiotics and you don't have the normal bacteria to keep the chemical balance. And sometimes you get it when you get chemotherapy or radiation therapy. And basically, this fungus starts growing where it doesn't belong and starts causing problems. It can affect your mouth, so you can't breathe very well. And some people actually get funguses in their lungs as well, which requires special treatment called antifungals. Not an antivirus, not an antibiotic, but special medications to clear it. And there's some rare conditions where you get fungal infections of the skin if you've been to rather unusual places, and it also requires a different kind of treatment too.
There's also, from a primary care perspective, common skin infections that people can get that are funguses too. And they're tinea corpus, tinea pedis, tinea cruis. This is like skin infections that where you are moist and warm, funguses like to gather. And so tinea cruis is between your legs where it's hot and warm. We call that jock itch. Tinea pedis is in your feet when your feet sweat a lot and you keep the same socks on. That's
Athlete's foot.
Athlete's foot, right. So and many times people will transfer the athlete's foot. They will transfer the fungus from their underwear when they put their shorts on and they have tinea pedis or athlete's foot, and they'll bring it up to the groin area, which is called tinea cruis, which is also called jock itch. So those are common. Those are the ones that don't necessarily need a compromised immune system to occur, but they can occur in normal people that just may sweat a lot. If you sweat a lot, you should bring an extra t-shirt to work or to school so that you don't keep the moist shirt on your skin like that.
And I'll also add that if you're uncontrolled with your diabetes, you're going to be predisposed to infections for so many reasons, but your body is not going to be equipped to fight the infections well because your immune system is being compromised with all the inflammation from diabetes. But the good news is some people eat mushrooms, right? So fungus is not all bad news. Some of the medicines that we have created over the years come from fungus. Some of the, like antibiotics, some of the vaccines, some of the vitamins, some of the hormones in my functional medicine nutrition training, you can actually create positive things from fungus, but too much of something can be bad for you. So I think if you have a healthy immune system, there's a list of diseases that only occur in people with HIV who are not being treated properly. So, and you would not, these diseases literally you wouldn't even see unless you had a compromised immune system, some of which are the fungals. So it's definitely a good and bad thing, but I think with a well-tuned body, you're probably going to be well protected from that.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Again, sorry about the technical difficulties while this is working. I like to say one of the things, so those, to dovetail off of what everyone said, another function is telling us what's going on in our bodies and the direction it needs to go in. And it kind of includes everything that my colleagues have kind of talked about. There are some funguses or fungi that occur naturally in your body, but there is a balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just like your immune system can throw things off balance, the equivalent of, I like to talk about, if you ever garden, putting mint and a whole bunch of things in one space. You just take one off day from the other things you grew where they don't grow successfully, and that mint will just be like great, and it will just grow out of control. And so our body, just like any ecosystem, has a way of keeping everything in balance, in check, things like that. That's why it's good to get your preventive care. Because if I run into things that impact my immune system, whether autoimmune or acquired, it can throw everything off. And it's not just that, I didn't go to the doctor and now I have lupus, and I didn't go early enough, and now I have other things. Is I didn't go to the doctor and I'm living with HIV, and now it's other things. Specifically for HIV, you have like cryptococcus, histo, and the histo is something that can look like anything, right? And then you have one that can affect your lungs. So brains, your whole body, your lung, that yeast can go out of control. And a lot of times with stigma, people talk a good and bad. Same thing with diabetes, good and bad. Something I find in my practice is things that aren't healthy for you, like Dr. Mason mentioned, Dr. Mason 100 mentioned, you do have to keep it in check and be real. And also with fungus, one of the things that it tells me is, say I'm not immune compromised. It tells me I'm consuming too much sugar. Why? Because we learned in the kitchen that fungi and yeast like moist, sugary things, right? And so if I don't know what too much sugar is by Dr. Mason or Dr. Hampton's definition, any sugar, one molecule away from crack, it'll tell you, you can look at, I tell a lot of people, you can look at your stress level. Sometimes people get yeast infections. You look at your stress level, you look at the things you're consuming, like Dr. Mason said, and if you're consistently seeing yeast or fungus in your body, and you're consistently having to take antifungals. I don't know if Dr. Pete mentioned that, or who mentioned, or Dr. Graham mentioned antifungals. But if you're consistently needing that, the number one thing I've asked people to do is get their preventive health stuff. Go to the doctor and see what's going on. And sometimes, because not all doctors have taken the courses Dr. Mason has taken the courses Dr. Hampton has taken, they forget to tell you after you've done all of that. So you're not immunocompromised in any way. You have to consider very seriously changing your intake, and not temporarily, because your body maybe doesn't like sugar. And I've had more success with my patients that come in with a fungus or a yeast continuously, and they say, why am I having it? Saying, hey, how much sugar are you intaking, and adjusting that. I've had loads of success with that. So it has a couple of functions. It's there. We don't want it there overgrown, but it also gives us clues into what's a healthy balance for our body. And so I just want to put that there too.
Outstanding. So, Bruce actually shared that he has fungus on his toes due to athlete foot when he was in the Army. And I don't know how long ago Bruce was in the Army, but if that hasn't cleared up, maybe we can try to find him some help to see if they can get that cleared up or help him clear that up. Everyone wants pretty toes. They do. Everyone. It's important.
Bruce does not want pretty toes. He wants healthy toes. Don't go there.
No, it's important. He might want his toes out. They may be tender or sore when he puts the shoe across it. So everybody wants those toes to be. Toes are important.
All right.
Toes are important.
I'll give you that.
So if we can find Mr. Holmes some help, let's see. So I don't know, but if my toe had a little fungus, one of y'all gonna help my toe. So I want y'all to help Mr. Holmes' toe, because that's important. I actually knew someone who had a toe fungus, and he couldn't stand to have a shoe across that toe.
Wow.
He acted like it was the worst. I thought the man had kidney stones. He said that toe would hurt so bad. And he actually found some help for the toe. They gave him some medication that he had to take orally. And then there was something he had to put on the toe as well. But it took maybe 6 months, but that toe cleared up and he could wear his shoes again. But yeah, he was walking around with one of those crazy shoes on because he couldn't stand for anything to touch that shoe. So my heart goes out to Mr. Holmes. Y'all help his toe. Let's put a referral or something in the comment section for Mr. Holmes to see if we can help his toe. He says
Yeah.
he's a veteran, so if VA may have something, or if we can give him some ideas to share with his doctor. Because sometimes you have to educate your doctor about you too. You go in there, he may have to tell his doctor, listen, I found out that this is something, let's see if we can use this and it may work for my toe. And that's important. That is important.
Pretty toes is $1 billion industry. Look how much money people make off of making toes pretty. Yeah.
Both men and women are doing toe commercials. I'm just saying.
Don't get Dr. Mason started. We had this conversation about how there were businesses in our community that we used to control that we no longer control. And I think the manicure and pedicure business was one of them. I knew a very successful woman who had several shops, and now we don't even own those shops anymore.
Wow. Yeah.
Not even the hair. Not even the hair.
Yeah.
And women of color wear a lot of hair extensions and not even the hair.
Wow.
What May says, that brings it home. Mary Ballinger says, good evening to everyone. She also says, great to be here and to see everyone on today. Bruce says it's 40 years ago. Oh my God. No, we're going to help that toe, Mr. Bruce. We're going to help that toe.
Nikki, sometimes he can, if you just see your primary care doc, and I know what happens is we have a finite time, but that's the easiest thing that you can do for a patient that they feel so happy about. You put them on one of those medications, and in a couple of weeks, the toenail clears up. They get so happy. Now, never mind. We still got to do what Dr. Maya said, and Dr. Ham said. We got to worry about what were the things that set us up for this toenail infection. Is our waist circumference too high? Are we a diabetic? Are we a pre-diabetic? All those things. If you don't solve that problem, that toenail infection is coming back. So right after you stop that antifungal medication, it's going to come back. So we need so we do need to be very concerned about those other things. But there's a simple prescription you can write that will help that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to pick up on something that Dr. Maya said, and I think it may have been lost, and that's this issue of sugar. And so sugar is naturally occurring in a lot of foods. And most of us really don't know how much sugar we consume in a day. Because basically, we don't read labels. That's one thing. But the other thing, we eat a lot more processed foods. So there's a lot more sugar and sodium in many of the foods that we eat today than we actually realize. And I think that's important for people to know. They may think that they're not eating a lot of sugar, but when you really take stock of the things that you eat and the foods you eat, you may find that you're eating and you're consuming an inordinate amount of both sugar and sodium, both of which can lead to some chronic conditions.
Joe, if I could just follow up on what you just said, and some people on the panel know of the doctor that I'm talking about, is a pediatric endocrinologist in California who's been doing a lot of work with obese children. And, the thing is, nothing happens overnight. Okay. We got to get out of this thing. It just happened. No, you may have just found it, but it was already there, but you didn't know it was there. And a lot of these things take time, and it takes time for these things to manifest themselves. And sugar, there's no accident that we're having so much problems with sugar, because it's an intentional. This is a substance, and we know that sugar stimulates some of the same receptors as cocaine. And so there is an addiction. And if you think about it, most of the stuff, particularly when we try and addict the children, the foods that we see that are in at the level that they can see when they go in the grocery store are all sugar, all these sugary cereals. This is frosted, or this is, this, everything has, all of those things have sugar in them. And that's Robert Lustig is the doctor I was thinking about. But, and this is not new stuff.
No.
This is not new stuff. We've known about this for a long time. And guess what? The food industry knows it too. And they know that if they can addict these children early to these cereals and these different foods, they got them for life. You still at 50 eating sugar pops and frosted flakes and all of those things. But it's true. And our taste buds are been geared up with so much sugar that we've eaten that we don't even know what a little bit is anymore. Many of us drink our tea and it's like syrup, or our coffee is like syrup because it's so sweet. So we need to really think about that, because it gets to the point where and we grow up eating all these candies. We grow up eating all kinds of stuff. Everything has got some sugar, whether it's confectioner sugar or it's a candy or what have you. So I'm not blaming. I don't want to blame the people. I want to make you understand that this is an intentional thing. There's no reason. There's no reason other than profit and greed that we see these things being aimed at our children, and they use all these nice colors and cartoon characters and everything else to draw them in. But if the parents have to take responsibility for governing how much of that stuff our children eat, because they will continue to eat it because that's what it's designed for them to do. So in the old days when we were growing up, we didn't have that much. You had to eat oatmeal or some grits or some other kinds of things. And I'm sure many of the other people on the panel can also. And it got so easy to be able to just throw that bowl out there, put the cereal on the table and pour the milk on it. Two things you don't need: the milk or the sugar.
Sugar pops, Dr. Mason. You didn't reach. You reached way back.
Hey.
Sugar pops. Mary Bell just says, true facts, Dr. Mason. Bruce Holmes is coming to see you, Pete. He says, I'm coming, Doc. He's coming to see you. Cheryl Foster says, yes on that, Dr. Pete. And I think she's talking about the fact that we don't control some of the businesses in our areas anymore. Lucy Boyd Diaz, she shared a question. My question is on packaged food. Why is it that Step One in Octavia can produce food that you pay hundreds of dollars for to lower cholesterol, bring diabetes to normal ranges, and lower blood pressure, and lose lots of weight in 3 to 4 months, and it takes eating normal low-carb food longer to do so?
This is one thing I like about organizations is that they provide coaching. So we need coaching to support patients on their journey. So Octavia, one of the companies that was quoted, I'm literally going to their website, and when I go to their website, I see 3 food items that are highlighted. One to the left is and I'll share this in the show notes, but one is a bar. So it's some type of meal replacement bar, The middle one is some type of shake. That's probably a supplement. And then you got Cheerios. But I would argue every one of them are processed food, right? So our goal is to teach you how to eat real food. That's the first thing. And understand that by the time, we're talking about sugar, but just like Dr. Mason said, the cereal is sugar too, because all it is a highly processed grain that they made cute into a little circle. It's garbage. If you look at the bar, now if I'm a low carb guy and I'm traveling and I need something to kind of hold me over, and if I'm a low fat person, I want something to hold me over, that's okay. But your goal is to eat real food. And if we stop eating all this processed stuff, which we should only use for emergencies. We're traveling. We couldn't pack what we needed to. So yeah, I think all these organizations that are selling products are okay for a person who simply can't figure out, with the support of their family, how to cook. They don't have the resources. Maybe in that extreme case, because when I was in my obesity training, clearly packaged foods, that type of process will help you lose weight. However, we need to teach people how to feed their families without having to buy packaged food. So that should not be the long-term plan. That's okay in the short term as you're transitioning. And while you're transitioning, let's teach you how to cook. Now, let's be clear. Whether you're doing animals or vegetables, it's not that hard to throw something in the oven. So a lot of the things that we say, I can't cook, I can't figure this out. Well, most of us can read a recipe. Most of us can throw things in the oven or an air fryer. So we have to decide, what our values are and what's important. And of course, for-profit companies are going to do their thing. And I'm not mad at any entrepreneur. I'm an American. I believe in capitalism. But I want my patients to learn how to eat real food. And if they do that, I think they'll do really well. I'm also going to share Lustig's video, probably 20 million views, The Bitter Truth. Everybody that's watching us should watch. Why did he get 20 million views? Because I think he's at University of California. He just speaks the truth, and he says it very strongly. And yes, crack cocaine and sugar are on the same level. That powder, whether it's crack or sugar, will kill you. And we were not made to consume food in that fashion. Now, although I encourage my patients, I see one of the questions talked about honey. Yeah, I mean, if you do 2 tablespoons of honey is equivalent to 4 tablespoons of sugar. Is it a better source of a sweetener? Probably so. It's got some immune benefits, etc. But excessive honey is gonna hurt you too. But sugar is probably way worse, and fructose is probably way worse than that. And all the things that are on the labels, if it has a dextrose or fructose, if it has an OSE at the end, it's probably a form of sugar. And you have to be very careful because it's very sneaky. They're just trying to make you addicted to this stuff so you'll keep consuming it. If you eat real food, you really cut out. That's why almost every diet is better than the standard American diet. Why does the Mediterranean diet work? Why does the DASH diet work? Dietary approach to stop heart. Why does the vegan diet work? Why does the low carb keto diets work? Because you eliminate processed food. And when you do that, your body is like, thank God you've done that, and it can recover and start to heal. So the key is to eat real whole foods, no matter what your dietary pattern is. And if you do that, you're going to be so much further down the road. So companies that always talk about packaged foods, I would only use those as a bridge therapy. I would not use that as my primary way to feed my family.
Well, right before I read Leonetta Sanders' comment, I want to share, you talked about packing and on trips and eating certain things going on trips. And I just want to share with you, you never want to go on a trip. Well, actually, maybe you should. You should go on a trip with the Miller boys, that's James, Matthew, and Johnny. And you should go with Dr. Mason. Because on their trip, nothing is in the package. See, I've been on a trip with some of them. Nothing is in the package. They got a cooler that's got, well, Dr. Mason's does it, but I know the Miller boys got some chicken in their cooler that they didn't cook. I mean, they got real food in the cooler, and you're going to eat real food on the trip. The whole trip, that's what they're going to do. Trust me when I tell you the whole trip. You're sleepy on the trip because you're going to eat real. Dr. Mason going to pack salad on the trip. So yeah, they're going to eat real food on the trip. Sometimes we just have to take time to do things for ourselves. They don't believe in package nothing. They not going. If it's not them packaging it themselves, it's not going to be packaged at all. I'm just going to tell you. And then I want you to look at the text message I just sent you. So Leonetta Sanders says, if you are a poor vegetable eater, are smoothies with vegetables and fruit only a substitute?
I didn't
If
hear
you
that.
are a poor vegetable eater, are smoothies with vegetables and fruit only a substitute?
Smoothies.
So I guess she's making those veggie smoothies, like with the kale and the pineapple and stuff. Is that a substitute for your fruits and vegetables if you are a poor vegetable eater? Leonetta, if I'm not interpreting your question right, please uh, type it in and clear me up so I can get your question done right
You,
for you.
you know, Nikki, what I would say to her is that I would encourage any consumption of fruits and vegetables, no matter how you do them, as long as you don't put a lot of other stuff in it that Dr. Hampton just talked about. If you're just taking, I mean, I do that every single day. You know, I take spinach and kale um, and blueberries and things of that nature. Yeah, that's fine. You can put that for me. That's fine. And you're not, and I'm not adding any sugar to Dr. Hampton's point. I'm not adding any sugar to it. Only the sugar that's in what I'm eating. However, if I'm diabetic or whatever, I do want to check with my doctor to be sure that even that, because there's still natural sugars in the fruits.
Yeah.
The vegetables you don't have to worry as much about because there's no sugar in those if they're not processed. When I say when I talk about when I say I put it in, I'm talking about the leaves. I get the bags, the organic bags, and it's got, you can get it with different kinds of mixes and all kinds of stuff, but there's no raisins in it because you got to be careful. Raisins are, you got to be careful. There's a lot of sugar in raisins because they're just dried up grapes. That's all they are. So I think that you could do that, but don't make this stuff hard. Don't make this stuff hard. The problem is they convinced us for us to do right takes more time and it's harder to do. When it's just the contrary. When you get used to doing the right thing is the easier thing to do. And it's
Yeah.
actually the cheaper thing to do. And it's cheaper because you're going to have less healthcare costs going forward if you do the right thing. So
Yeah.
that's what I would say to that.
Yeah. Well, I think that part of the problem that we have is that as has been mentioned, the American diet. We, just people, we're just set up to fail by the way that the system and the food is prepared. And so when babies begin to feed, the process start in the wrong direction, giving them things that is tasty, not necessarily healthy. And so
Mhm.
that process continues on, and so the baby is taking on things that are tasty and addictive and so forth. And so the diet that what you begin to like is what you're going to continue to grow to like, and therefore that becomes the thing that you want, desire, and are addicted to, and that's what you seek. And so many of the diets and the food that are provided for us set us up for failure in terms of eating correctly and maintaining good health. Um, and so that's one thing. The other thing is that we are in such a big hurry to do nothing, in this sense that we're in a hurry to get someplace, but we're not really going anyplace. And so we don't take time to do the things that we need to do, but take time to feed ourselves correctly, take time to prepare our food correctly. These are things that and take time to take care of ourselves so that we are healthier. And that's a process, and that's some knowledge that we want to make certain that we give to people, because that is a big part of the health failure that we're seeing in our communities and just actually around the world. Because whatever you put in, it's not going to go in and come out better. It's going to be what it is. What you put in, that's what it is. And so there's a real need to train and teach people about eating the proper things and about a preparation of those things, and that just not being. I mean, I don't see it being provided anywhere, and that's a big.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Robin Perkett Robinson, I love you. And Dr. Hampton was trying to answer, well, he did answer some of your question about the honey and the sugar substitute, and then you asked a question about the brown sugar. Girl, anything that has sugar, leave it alone. Just back up from it. Just take a break off the sugar for a little while. In the words of Dr. Hampton to Nikki Harvey about a year ago, go get a little bottle of cream of tartar, have it in your kitchen, because when you kick the sugar habit, you're gonna have headaches for a few days. But trust me, it'll go away, and you will feel better about 8 days after you've been left sugar alone. You will really feel better. And then when you have sugar again, you will know that you're having sugar again, and you really won't want it. It's like your tongue will be like, yeah, I don't think I want that anymore. And it will help you. So try that, Robin. Trust me, trust me. Dr. Mason, these next two questions are just for you. Leonetta Sanders says, we were taught as children to drink milk for healthy bones and for calcium. And May Ross and her both said, what is wrong with milk?
Well, the milk that we drink comes from cows. The commercial milk is coming from a cow. And the milk that comes from the cow is the absolute perfect food for the baby calf. It is not the absolute perfect full food for humans. Every mammal just about on the planet that bears young like humans or cows or whatever, they prepare milk for their young. Every single one of them. And that milk is tailor-made for that species. Just as breast milk coming from the mother's breast, the human breast, is tailor-made for that baby. Now, unfortunately, we're in a society where that doesn't make money for the dairy industry. Okay, so the dairy industry is going to try to convince you that you need to drink milk from a cow. And we have some, and I've done programs on this, we have among some of the lowest breastfeeding rates around. And the other thing is, once that baby is weaned from the breast, once you don't need milk all your life. You only need milk through those formative years as an infant. Once you wean, and I'm talking about purely naturally now, once you are past the point that you need to suckle milk from your mother's breast, you don't need it anymore, period. It's not necessary. The nutrients and things that you can get that you need, you can get from eating real food. These are machinations of our industrial food complex, whose primary motive is to convince you that you need to do this, so they want you to continue drinking milk so that you can keep eating cereal. And the cereal industry, whatever kind of cereal it is, none of that stuff is really that good for you. And so we get our children, that's another way you would get our children addicted to sugars, because of the sugar that's in all the different cereals, prepared cereals that are out there. So I don't, and besides that, the human doesn't even contain, many humans like myself and others don't even contain the enzyme to break down the sugar that's in the cow's milk. That's called it's lactose. We're lactose intolerant. And that's not a disease.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not a disease. If you're lactose intolerant, that doesn't mean you have a disease or you have something wrong with you. No, things are right with you, and you shouldn't just be drinking. I mean, I've been lactose intolerant. I couldn't drink that stuff for a long time.
It starts at the age of 2 for most African Americans.
Yeah.
2, you stop making lactase.
So you don't need it, and you stop making it because the body says you don't need it. And you don't need to be drinking. You don't need to hook your baby up to a cow. We did a lot of things, Dr. Hampton, when I was at the health department to help increase breastfeeding rates, because breastfeeding is the best milk. Even, and I mentioned it on the show the other night, even breast milk from other mothers is better than breast milk from a cow. And we did that study was done, as I may have mentioned before, at Rush, where the babies that were in the NICU that were fed breast milk, even from other women who donated their milk, did better and recovered better than those babies that were fed formula. That's why they call it formula. What the hell is formula? Whose formula is it? What is it made from? Why are they giving you that stuff? And it's done because you have to understand the commercial interest in food. And so I do not support, other than if there's no other choice. And when the baby is weaned from the breast, you do not need milk at all from anything ever again in life.
Well, Cheryl Foster says, Dr. Mason, you are a prophet tonight. That's what Cheryl has shared. And Leonetta Sanders said, well, thank you, Dr. Mason. But what about almond milk?
Almond milk is not animal milk. Almond milk is made from processing the almonds, smashing them up and making milk from that. But you know what? Why do that?
Yeah.
What you really need is water. Drink water. You don't need the almond milk at all. If you want something for your cereal, because that's why they made cereal, to sell milk, because you have to put milk on the cereal. And so you don't need that. In those cereals that they make, those processed things, I've never seen a flake from a corn. I've seen lots of corn, and I don't know if anybody else has ever seen real corn, but I've never seen corn a flake that looked like that from the plant. With a corn flake, I've never seen that. That's not natural. So we just been, as we said, been hoodwinked and bamboozled. And we got to stop this foolishness and continue. And I'm not don't mean to be to denigrate or anything with anybody, because we're operating out of ignorance. And ignorance just means you don't know. Doesn't mean you can't know. It just means you don't know yet. And that's what this show does, is to help you fight ignorance by giving you real information.
Dr. Mason,
oh, go ahead.
What you said is, and I love what you're saying. I love the 100, because a lot of times we're conditioned in this country to want to learn about ourselves in a way that also it's like, tell me about myself and tell me what I need to change, but don't tell me anything that I need to change. Tell me how great I am and convince me to change the things not good. So a lot of times the task is to tell us what we can do better, but I'm gonna use this pun intended, sugarcoat it, right? Mm-hmm. And so sometimes, and we don't learn like that, because then it's up to us to decode what's best for us. So thank you for keeping it 100. The other thing, I went to, Dr. Miller, you mentioned a place. I went to recently a conference, and it's not just for physicians and other providers. It's open to the public, and I'm not affiliated with them. I looked it up. I've been hearing the stuff that's said on this broadcast, and I'm learning, right? So I signed up for Plant-Based Prevention of Disease conference.
Okay.
And they weren't like, it wasn't like this esoteric kind of all over the place, eccentric, what do you call it? Hippie. No, this was actual science. Okay. It was actual science. This is like the peer-reviewed articles, all this stuff about different medical conditions. And it all boiled down to sugar and animal protein. So for me, specifically with beef, they were talking about casein. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it was eye-opening, and I started thinking about why this information, like I didn't learn that in medical school. You don't learn it from places where Kellogg actually owns the whole school and made a very significant donation to Kellogg family. You don't, and who also makes the cereal, right? So you don't learn that. And I was like, why didn't they teach us this in medical school? Why didn't they just say that? So there's a lot that we as a community can grow from. And I'm sure that's not the only one. I saw it. I signed up for it. I'm going again in June, and I invited my family, because I think that's the only way, that kind of stuff is understandable. And like I said, it wasn't, and I don't remember, and I don't, disclaimer, I don't know these people. I don't know the owners of it. anything. What I knew is it was a scientific kind of plant-based prevention of disease, and I'm a public health person as well as a physician, and I was like, how can we prevent disease in our community better? So I've been going to a lot of stuff. This was one of them, and it was just eye-opening, journal after journal. Like even the pediatrics was talking about we shouldn't give people, the kids milk, and I was like, and they were talking about the myth that you have to have milk to have vitamin D, and like stuff like that, and then giving resources. Where do you get vitamin D from? Green leafy vegetables, like that kind of stuff. And it reminded me of one of my friends I grew up with, and we used to have popsicles with the ice cream truck would come through, and we would get it, and then she would go in the house and come out with and here's for the new parents out there, a pea. You know those peas? Are they called snow peas? The little green peas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Frozen peas. And she really was like, this is my sweet treat. And I was like, how are peas frozen? And I realized my sugar level was off. I mean, how are peas a treat? My sugar level was off. I came back, stopped eating sugar for a little bit, and I tasted a pea, and it was sweet. Yeah. And she would eat frozen peas as a treat. And I had never heard of it. And that took me back to there are people that are doing it. We certainly need more.
Yeah.
Thanks for going to the Peapod conference.
What'd you say?
Thanks for going to the Peapod conference. I presented at that meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, they do. Dr. Ocean does a great job.
Mm-hmm.
They've been doing it for years.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wonderful conference. I would invite anyone to attend, but they do. And Milton, all these guys that are there that been doing this for a long time, and they've been trying to do just what you said, get the real truth out, so people can make real.
And one thing
and for the doctors.
Sorry, go ahead.
And it's the doctors, because first of all, we are not taught nutrition in medical school. Period. Mm-hmm. If we got nutrition, it was really about learning about deficiency diseases, beriberi, scurvy, that kind of stuff. There was no nutrition, and they still don't teach real nutrition in medical school even now. And even the problem that we ran into when we had Dr. Campbell's conference is that the nutritionists who are supposed to be advising people are taught the same stuff that's not right, that they then continue trying to teach patients when they've got cancer and all this other stuff. It's still a big problem. So thank you so much for bringing that out, Dr. Meyer. I really appreciate it, because it's not just there. We got a lot of conferences that are trying to deal with those issues, and I'm glad that you went. It was in Michigan or someplace not that far away. Yeah, it was good.
Yes, Planty or something like that near Detroit. Mm-hmm. And my family was like, "Why didn't you take us?" So we going in June, and the family is going in June.
Mm-hmm. Well, outstanding. Our last question for the night, because we've reached that time, and I know you guys hate to hear us say this, but our last question for tonight will be from Pat Weston, and she says, "How do you get rid of the sugar craving?" So she really wants to know how you fight those cravings. Now, I know we have tons of other comments and questions, and thank you, Audrey, for sharing some. Audrey J. Cox. We're going to reserve those for next week. We didn't forget you. But our time is near, so we want to answer Ms. Weston's question really quickly, and then we're going to do our until next Monday. So, anybody want to tackle Pat's question?
Yeah,
how do we get past this?
You just it's like any addiction. Once you go through withdrawal, when you commented earlier, Nikki, about cream of tartar and how you may not feel good when you're reducing the sugar at first. Because when carbohydrates and sugar attract water and salt, and they also attract potassium and stuff like that. But if you get rid of those things, you remove the potassium. That's why you need the cream of tartar to add the potassium back. So ultimately, when you go through your withdrawal, which takes anywhere from a few days to a couple of weeks max, you're going to be fine in terms of being able to not be thinking about sugar. My eating pattern allows for me not to be hungry or to crave, because I'm satiated, I'm full, I feel good. So I think if we can go through the withdrawal, it's very short-lived. Most people will take on a new dietary pattern, not feel good at first because they're going through withdrawal, and then they'll give up, not realizing that there's a victory at the end of that suffering. So, and to be honest with you, most patients don't even suffer. So I would just say, it seems hard. What's hard is that we're going to be triggered because we're around people who are consuming the things we're trying not to consume. And the neurons that will remind you that you like these substances will fire and will make you want those substances again. So you have to make your house a safe place so that you don't struggle with that addictive aspect. So make your house safe, go through the withdrawal, and then you'll be in good shape. So, and your taste buds come back, you feel great, just got to go through it.
All right. So, as we always say, we go around the table and we find out what are your thoughts until next Monday. Douglas Graham, until next Monday.
Whoa. Wow, Nikki. So unfortunately for us, we have 2 new COVID variants in the neighborhood. And there are 2 rather peculiar problems with these variants. If you've had COVID in the past, it doesn't protect you against another COVID infection with these 2 new variants. So we can't go around assuming just because we've had in the past, we're okay in the present. And the other really critical problem is almost all those home tests will not detect it. So if you get a fever and you're not feeling well, you need to get a PCR test because none of the kits we have available are going to pick up these variants and help you and your doctor make the right decision what treatments you might need.
Thank you, Doug. Joe, what's your thoughts until next Monday?
Well, I think there's been a lot of useful advice has been given, and we talked a lot about food and what is food, what is not food, and the harmful effects of sugar. What I want to remind everybody is each of us has the ability to change. Sometimes the hard part is to start. So I'm encouraging anyone that's listened to this program tonight that has taken in what we've said will start tomorrow. Just take one step and that will help you moving forward.
Mhm.
Outstanding. Dr. Miller, your thoughts until next Monday?
Again, in order to be healthy, you need to eat healthy. You can't put in slop or poison and expect to be healthy. And so I know when we look at the whole food industry, we don't look at it as being poison. However, if you're taking in things that are addictive to you, things that are causing your bodies to develop defects such as a clogging of your arteries, that these are things that are going to make you sick. If they don't make you sick right now, they're going to make you sick later. So you need to consider that and then take some steps to prevent that. And part of that, the step of prevention is not doing the things that's going to hurt you and start doing things that are going to be healthy to you.
Outstanding. Dr. Hampton, your thoughts until next Monday?
I definitely want to encourage everybody to check out The Bitter Truth. Again, I shared that link. Hopefully it's visible with Dr. Lustig. 20 million views explaining why sugar is harmful. I encourage everybody. We talked about smoothies. I tend to discourage my diabetics from doing bananas and pineapples because they're essentially 7 teaspoons of sugar each. However, if you are metabolically healthy and you make a smoothie with spinach, pineapples, bananas, and your sugar doesn't spike, then have at it. 88% of Americans are metabolically unhealthy, however. So that means that a lot of people can't tolerate grinding up fruit into a smoothie if they're not metabolically healthy. So I would do a N of 1 experiment where you test your sugar after maybe 2 hours after you've had it. And if your sugar's spiking, or if you're diabetic and it's even doing worse, I would avoid that and just eat real food. Finally, I want to speak to science, right? So this is for Dr. Maya in particular. There's a lot of confusion. I spent years doing my own research, and I've spent time in my nutrition and functional medicine course. And I had a whole class talking about research studies. So you'll find in documentaries, What the Health, Fat documentary, the one I was in, Beyond Impossible, etc. And what you'll find is that you hear a lot of studies, right? And it's your inclination is to just trust what you hear. And what I'm asking anybody listening or who goes to a conference, you have to ask yourself, is it an observational study or is it a randomized controlled trial? The studies that do surveys and things like Hewlett at Harvard, he does a lot of observational studies, and he looks at data in a computer and they put out data. And the problem with those types of studies is they only show correlation, association, not causation, meaning that it's not conclusive. We then take those studies and we do real research, randomized controlled trials. And why there's so much confusion in nutrition is because we have made so many decisions based on observational studies. So when you're at those conferences, Dr. Meyer, the first thing you ask is, what the heck is this study? How was it done? And if it's an observational study, then you can't make a conclusion from that study. And that's just something I want to emphasize, because if we don't do that, then we're going to demonize things we shouldn't demonize. So I just want to say that out loud, because that's the fight that I'm having. I have patients that are so afraid to eat anything because they're listening to studies that don't have the kind of evidence that it should. So I just think that's really important. And that's what I learned when I get my master's in September. This is what they're teaching us. And although they tend to lean plant-based as well, my teachers do. When I put science in front of them and I say, this is not, this is what I'm doing, and here's the science, they don't argue with it. They just say, you know what? That's an option that people should have as well.
Okay. Dr. Mason, you're until next Monday.
Until next Monday, realize that this is not a sprint. This is a long distance race. And it's not something you're going to change and turn around in 2 meals or in 2 days. So, to Dr. Hampton's point, the studies are there, but the problem is the problem with studies. The real problem is most of our things are designed to look at one particular thing. And you have one group that has it and one group that has something that's fake that looks like it or something like that. And food studies just can't be done that way. It's just very, very difficult, because no matter what you eat, it's a combination of things. And you never know you don't always know and can't always figure out in the purest science what's contributing necessarily to what. So I think that what we have to do is that there are things that we are intended to eat, and those things are things that occur naturally for the most part. And those things that are packaged, processed, and things of that nature, that's a whole nother story, and we can talk about that another time. And I would recommend that you stay away from a lot of that. One of the things I'll leave with this is that we've got to go to the age-old thing called cooking. A lot of these things do need to be prepared. And cooking don't mean frying, don't mean microwaving. It may mean some degree of chopping and other things. And we won't get into that tonight, but I just wanted to say that because it's important. And you won't go wrong for the most part with things that come out of the ground, as opposed to walk over it, fly over it, and so on and so forth, because your systems are designed to help break those things down, assuming that you acquaint them with your teeth long enough before you swallow them. So that would be, and don't beat yourself up. You didn't get this way overnight. Be patient with yourself and be patient with the changes. There's no such thing as this going to happen and you'll be 20 pounds slimmer by Friday. That's not going to happen. So just take time and get the best and eat the best foods and drink the best water, drink water. We drink a lot of stuff that we don't need. Water is what we need. So I would just say those things in my closing remarks. And thank you, Congressman Davis and Nikki, for this opportunity.
Outstanding. So right before I bring Dr. Maya and the Congressman, I just want to make an announcement and go over just a few quick things for you really quickly. Remember, June is a very busy month, and there's a lot of things that you got going on in June. June is National Safety Month. It's Pride Month. It's World Infertility Awareness Month. It's Hunger Awareness Month. It's Child Vision Research and Cataract Awareness Month. Autism and Brain Awareness Month. PTSD Awareness Month. Pharmacists declare war against alcoholism month. Migraine headaches awareness. It is Fruit and Vegetable Month. Scoliosis Awareness Month. Remember that Family Health and Fitness Day is June 12th. That's the National Day for Family Health and Fitness. And of course, today, June 6th, is the National Cancer Survivor Day. So once again, we want to say hats off to all of the people who have gotten that diagnosis on cancer and who have beat it, and you have a testimony just as well. But we don't want to forget that June is also the month of the birth anniversary for our very own Dr. Hampton. He has a birthday coming up in about a week and a half. So we're going to make sure we have a virtual birthday cake for him here on Couch Conversations. We want to remind you that the Congressman Danny K. Davis, in conjunction with Alderman Emma Mitts, Dr. Maya Green, that's Dr. 100 that's here on the panel, Dr. Audrey Tanksley, Dr. Erica Taylor, Dr. Gloria Elam, Dr. Tony Blanche, Ramona Burgess, and Planned Parenthood on Wednesday will be showing the film The Jane. It's a panel and watch event that we will have. It'll be a great panel. And then a movie premiere with HBO watch event. This is all free. It's a great eye-opening viewing. So join us Wednesday, June 8th at 7 p.m. at the 37th Ward Community Room, 4926 West on Chicago Avenue. We will drop the link for in-person viewing seating in the chat. We will drop the link there so you can make sure that you register so you can have an in-person seat for that day for the actual panel discussion and the watch event. I held Dr. Green off for last, and Hampton and Miller, because there were some specific questions that we had an abundance of that I wanted us to make sure we attacked right before we left. And I think her name is Adams, Miss Adams, who was here, who thanked Doug for sharing information about the COVID variants that's here. And that's what these questions were about. We got a little over 1,000 questions about these new COVID variants and what people can do to stay safe. In those questions, we also got some questions about monkeypox just as well. So Maya, if you could, Dr. Maya, if you can share just a little light on that so we can make sure that people understand what they need to do to stay safe, and give your comments until next Monday. We'll be ready to bring the congressman.
Okay, I'll go fast because I don't know what my internet connection is going to do. Can you hear me? Okay. All right. Monkeypox is basically an orthopox virus. It looks like a little bump, and sometimes with a little yellow kind of fluid, and then it can become engorged and red. It's spread basically from skin to skin contact, but it's also something currently that we're saying maybe droplet, not airborne, not floating around the air, but droplet. Now, the exposure time for monkeypox, if you're in a space with someone with monkeypox, the exposure time to get it is, if it's skin to skin, that's direct exposure. If you're going to get it from being in an environment, you have to be in that environment up to 3 hours without a mask. It's not the same thing as the 15-minute like COVID. What does that mean? It means if you mask up, over the nose, under the chin, and you're consistently moving. If you show up at the James, put your mask on. That's what it means. It means walk around, mask on tight, snug over the nose, and we can come out of this. We can come out of that, right? And again, the time, because I've gotten a lot of people that are like, oh no, it's another, you have to be around that person 3 hours. That's the contact time, and you have symptoms like fever, people are having chills, and then there's this accompanying rash. And then that rash goes from a blister to something that's going to scab over. And if the question is like, I, got that blister, I got that rash, went to the doctor, got tested as monkeypox, when am I free to go like outside? And, that's when the scab is gone and you have a new layer of skin. Okay. So the scab is the part that's like super contagious, and you have a new layer of skin. So that's monkeypox. My other comment for the day is, woo, family, this internet situation was out of control. So if your sugar intake is like my internet connection tonight, you can always restart right now, right? So I'll see you back next Monday. And I'm confident and I'm resilient that I'm going to, I'm one of them people. I understand everything they're saying. I grew up, I love, I was like eating gummy bears and all that other stuff. And to be transparent, it's a journey for me. That's why conferences like that help, and I know for me and my family. Oh, also, I just want to say thank you, Nikki. Today, you said Cancer Survivor Awareness Day. Shout out to my sister, Rachna Oyande Green. We call her Shay. I believe, 2008, she was diagnosed with a ependymoma hanging off her brainstem. She is a survivor. She also recently graduated with her bachelor's degree. She is just showing out. So shout out to my sister. I love you, Shay. And congratulations on another year survivor. So see you next week with a better internet connection. Peace. Oh, no, I won't see you next week. I'll see you Wednesday. I'll see you Wednesday night at the James.
Right, and next week. Right, you're absolutely right. So remember to mask up and wash your hands. Follow all those COVID informationals just as well to make sure that you stay safe. And as we bring the man of the hour, the man who makes this possible for us on every Monday, the one who reminds us that true wealth is health, being healthy. Health is wealth is our very own Congressman of the Illinois 7th Congressional District. No other can walk in these shoes. That's our very own Congressman, Danny K. Davis.
Well, let me thank everybody. As a matter of fact, it's been a very informative discussion, and I want to thank all of you for participating. I've had such an exciting last 5 or 6 days until it's almost unimaginable. I visited 5 early childhood education centers the latter part of the week. And it was just great to see all of these little children with their mask on, learning. We had our wonderful time talking about roses are red and violets are blue, sugar is sweet and so are you. Sing a song of sixpence, pockets full of rye. 4 and 20 blackbirds were baked in a pie. And when the pie was over, they all began to sing. Was that not a dainty dish to set before the king? King was in the counting house counting out money. Old Madam Rose was outdoors hanging out her clothes. So it's just been a great. I went to a church on Sunday, and it was the name of the church was the Church on Fire. And I go in there expecting some movement and all that. And the group was performing some of the softest, sweetest music I have ever heard. And we had ourselves just a great time. But I was thinking about change because that's what we've been talking about all evening. And I'm reminded that change, if we're talking about eating habits, we're talking about social practices, if we're talking about freedom, the ability to do whatever it is that you decide. And there's one part of the definition that I like to use when we talk about public health. And that part of the definition has to do with social role expectations. And so this month is a month for a lot of things. But it's also the month that we vote in the state of Illinois, June 28th. And the real deal, if for some reason individuals don't vote, they're unhealthy. They're not healthy. They're doing as much damage to themselves as they do when they smoke cigarettes or when they eat the wrong stuff, too much of it. And so fulfilling social role expectations is a part of being healthy in my mind. So I want to encourage everybody to do that. Everybody, because everybody is not necessarily primed to do it. I would venture to suggest that 25% of the people in our state don't know there's an election going on the 28th. I'm saying, how do I know? Because we do phone banking. And I have a group that does phone banking every day. They call people. And a lot of the people that they talk to don't know that there is an election. So all of us kind of have a challenge as well as a responsibility. People have the right, like they have the right not to wear a mask. We've seen a little clearing, but that's all we've got. And we've seen some positive movement in terms of how potent the pandemic is. Well, I got to go into DC tomorrow morning, and I got to get there in time to be tested because I have an invitation to the White House. The president is going to sign one of my bills. And you know, when they sign your bill, they sometimes invite you to come and be there when they put the pen to it. This happens to be a bill that I introduced in the House. Senator Durbin introduced it in the Senate. Both the House and the Senate have passed it. And what it's going to do is give veterans some money back that they would lose or would not have the benefit of unless the president signs on. So I got to get there in time to be tested, which means that we are still testing. We are still advocating the use of masks. We get briefed almost every day about what the real status of these things are. And the same information that people have been given and are being given continuously is the information that's working. If people have been vaccinated, if they're wearing their mask, the likelihood of going where the people at the church on fire hope to go when they leave. But it does mean that you won't be leaving sooner, but perhaps later. And so please don't think that we're out of the woods in terms of the pandemic. There are good results in terms of medications that have been developed that provide good protection and relief. And so let's make use of everything that we know. Beyond that, let's practice this social role expectation and make sure that we help others to know that when they don't vote, they are harming us. And it's not just harming themselves, but they're harming all of those who think a certain way. Because if you don't get the majority to be engaged, then you're kind of missing out. So let me thank you all. I had dinner yesterday when I got home after being to 5 places where they had food. And my wonderful wife had cooked some collard. And all that I had and a pan of bread had been baked. I probably overdid it on that. But I made what we used to call pot liquor. And those who don't know what pot liquor is, you just take these vegetables and get them just right. And we used to use pot liquor as a side dish. But all that you got in there really is the vegetable plus whatever the grain. That's not too bad. So Dr. Mason, that was my dinner yesterday. And while I was watching the news and having dinner, I was thinking about what I was going to eat next week. And so until next week, eat well, sleep well, and be well. Thank you all so much. Have a good evening. And all right.